Hello everyone, this is Ben. Today I'll be covering reflected clock on the wall. One thing to note, um, which is always a really important thing to do, alright, right off the bat, I'm gonna assume you guys have already read the prompt. I'm not gonna go and read it again. I'm too lazy for that. But I'll cover everything else. So, but I will go over the algorithm regardless. The first thing that is always important to do is understand your input format and see if you can even get the input and get your output working. Because why work on the algorithm if you can't get that? So let's do that now. I have this little example thing up. I'm going to write it over here, but you can write it here if you want. So let's make our beginning things. And let's read in that input. So this input format is going to tell us right here, the first line has an integer t, the number of test cases. So easily enough, integer t. I'm going to read it in, that's the first line. And then I could read, and for a certain amount of t lines after that, in this case there's two more lines. I have two strings. Well, okay. I'm going to bring in a string library. I'm going to read t times. Oh. And so I can just read in this string. So let's define this string. And let's see out it. Let's see if it works. So that's our first step. Our output was simply that. So we read through and we stopped where we needed to and we outputted what we wanted. So that's a good first step. Now I can go over the algorithm. So basically, given a clock that is reflected like in a mirror, can we determine the actual time? So the input is read from the mirror. So this 12 o'clock is from the mirror. 12 o'clock is the same, regardless. But this 10:09 turns into 1 o'clock, 1:51. So it was a little tricky for some people because just little things that were not caught. So let's start with a clock. 6, just your main points. 3, 9. These are your hours. So consider hours first. We can change this hour to be what it's gonna be. When the minutes are exactly 00. Okay, so one concept to know about a clock is that after 00, the minutes 00, right? You know how the hour hand moves slightly and it keeps moving. Like if you're at 1 and you're gonna get to 2, you know how you have this going on, right? This hour hand is gonna move slightly, all the way till it gets to 2 and it's touching it, right? That's or not touching it, but like aiming towards the hour hand. So that's really important when it comes to reflecting it. So consider 1 and 11 over here. When it's exactly 00, it's pointing directly at it. So that's like one case. That's one case. So it will be just like a direct thing, right? So 1 would map to 11, 2 would map to 10, 9 would map to 3, 8 to 4, 7 to 5, and you got 6. There you go. That's only when it's 0, 0. Okay, so when it's past 0, 0, then the hour went over a bit, over this. And so what happens there is this is how it's reflected. We have 12, 6. Let's consider 1. So if it, or just 12 o'clock. Let's say it's 12:20. Or let's use 1:51 like the example actually. Or yeah, I mean it's given 10:09 and we get 1 o'clock. So how do we get that? Well, it's saying that it's pointing to 10, which is over here. And so since it's 09, it's a little bit past 10. So it's in between 10 and 11. And in between that, over here on this side, is 1. So this is how it maps here instead. It's not direct like in the first clock. It's in between. So that's how we get 1 is our hour. And minutes. So that's how we define it. These are the 2 hour differences that we get. Either it's a 0 hour or it's a non-zero hour, which is like in reference to minutes. So how do we define minutes? Well, we get 51. That's what the output tells us. Well, simply when it's 0, 0, it's still 0, 0 because it doesn't move it, you know. A mirror is not going to change that. When it's 30, the minute hand, it doesn't change. It's directly down the middle. It's 30. Well, we know that 1 maps, like minute 1 maps to 59, minute 2 maps to 58, 3 maps to 57. You could just put this in arrays, so forth. It wraps around. You get to 30, 30, and then so forth. So if we just put it in lookup tables, this is a lookup table, this is a lookup table, and this is a lookup table. You simply use the lookup table and you output the correct time. That is a solution. Another solution is by using a case, like a switch statement, using cases, and going case by case. But let's just use a lookup table for now. Sorry about that. Okay. So, yeah, let's do it in C++ since that's popular. I have a reference over here, so. Okay, so let's start with minutes. So this is me getting this. Let's initialize my arrays up here. So I'm gonna bring in vector. Let's define vector. And I'm gonna do a vector, so my lookup table is an index is the lookup, right? And a string is the output, because this is just a string. I want to build a string at the end of it, so I'm doing a vector of strings. I'll call it min array for minute array. Let's just call it minute array. I know there's 60 minutes. I'm gonna initialize them to empty string. And I know that when I plug in 0 minutes, it's 0, 0, the string. So I'm gonna use this left. There's other ways to do this, but I'm just gonna, to initialize this first one, I'm just gonna do this method where I just go down from 59. You know, I have like a right and a left. I can do right if I want and do a while loop. Like right starts at 1, and you know, you just keep going. But I could just do a for loop instead for the right. So I can call it that too. Right equals 1. Right is less than 60. And then our minute array in question, we're going to plug that in, the right. I mean, at this point, we have to make a function. Let's call it int to string. We're going to plug in the left. That's how it's going to be mapped. And the left just keeps getting decremented. So let's make the string, because we plug in this integer left, right? We want a string. We want a string in this kind of format. So let's make this little helper function real quick. It's going to return a string. It's going to take an integer. So we simply need to return, and we'll do a ternary operator on this. So if num is greater than 10 or greater than or equal to 10, we're going to return, we can do a toString num, else there's a 0 in front of it, plus the toString num. So that's going to give us that, and that initializes that entire array right there. Put a comment. Array. So let's do our array. And you could do the same kind of thing to do the our array. We need two arrays. You know, we need this lookup table and this one when it's 0 and when it's not. You can figure that out quite easily by just writing it down and then seeing how to make it. Well, since I made it already, I could just skip that. Since like it's not as big as 60, I could just bring it in like this. Kind of like when you're doing binary number lookup for like a certain like the lower 4 bits. Like I think it's called nibble. So it's kind of the same thing. It's quite easy to make like 0 hour given, not 0 hour, add 1. Like given a certain parameter though. So those are the two other arrays that we want. So now that we looked it up, we don't need to output anymore. That was just a test. We need to pass the values to it. So it's easier in Python. We're going to have to do it a different way here. So we're going to have to initialize some other stuff. So we need integer hour and minute as well. And we need a string, hour string, and minute string. So we're going to call our hour string because we're just going to pull out this little piece of it, like minus this colon. We just want the hour of it, hour version of it. We can do an initialization of it, a string initialization given characters. And so that's the first character and then the second character. And copy this over for the minute string. And you have 0, 1, 2. And we start at 3 and 4. So put 3 and 4 for that. We have that now. And then let's update the hour to be using this string to integer of hour string. See, like it's just a one way with Python. It's a lot simpler, but there's other ways to do this, but we'll just do this for now. And minute string is that, minutes are integer. So like I was saying, if minute most of like there's more chances that minute does not equal 0, so we'll put the if up there, else it is 0. So like I was saying, not 0 string is what we're going to use, and we simply need to just output it at this point because we have these lookup arrays. That's the point of doing this. It makes your life easier, kind of. So not 0 hour, our array, we're going to call it. We're going to call it, and like we're going to look up a certain amount, which is like, oh, we just look up the hour. Okay, it's gonna output the hour. Put this colon in between, and we're gonna look up the minute in the minute array, and look up that minute that we made, that we got from the input, and then let's put a new line. We can put the same thing here and just change it to 0 hour here. I keep it in the same stream, so that's why I don't just put it down here like the minute array, because it's the same thing. And let's see if it works. I call it minute array at the one point. Yeah, right there. I forgot to update it. Let's run the code again, and we passed. Let's submit it, and we get accepted. So pretty simple way. You could also do cases. This is just a faster way to write it. And to show you real quick how it looks like in Python, I posted it on GitHub. So it's a little bit faster to write. You could just map it here, and printing it is faster. Instead of, you have to write a bit more here. So, thank you.